former Health Secretary Matt Hancock is calling for Boris Johnson to resign. He was a senior member, of course, of Boris Johnson's cabinet during the early days of his leadership and through most of the pandemic until he resigned.
So let's talk to him now. Matt Hancock, good to talk to you this morning. Have you got an explanation of why, with more than 50 of his government colleagues resigning and at least one person refusing to take on a government job to replace the Wealth Secretary, why Boris Johnson refuses to go? You know him well. What's your analysis?
I've got absolutely no idea. Unfortunately, he's lost the confidence not only of the parliamentary party but also of his cabinet. And there's so many important things that we need to be getting on with. We need a new Prime Minister. I say this with great sadness. As you said in your intro there, I've worked incredibly closely with the Prime Minister. For instance, on the vaccine rollout, he's done some extraordinary things like uniting the West in our response and standing up to Vladimir Putin. But it's time for him to go, and it gives me no pleasure to say that. But we've clearly, he should just come out of Downing Street and resign. It would be better for him, and it would be the right thing for the country.
Mr. Hancock, are you surprised that he isn't taking heed of what's going on around him? Because, as you say, you knew him very well. He was somebody that sort of seemed to be able to react to the tone of what was happening and quite agile fashion at times, but it's this belligerence that he's going to carry on. He's got an upbeat mood, he's going to get on with the job. Are you surprised that he's not reading the room better?
Frankly, yes. I assumed that he was going to resign yesterday, when so many people were of his own cabinet were telling him that he had to go. And there are conventions in politics, and there's one of them is that if you lose half of your cabinet, and even some of the people who are staying are telling him to go, then you stand down. And there's a reason for that convention, because it's clearly going to happen, whether it happens today or whether it happens next week. The mechanism is less important than the fact that, unfortunately, Boris has lost the confidence of the party in Parliament, and he's going to have to stand down, and it'd be better for him and also better for the country if he did that today.
There must be people telling him not to stand down. I mean, Nadine Dorries has said he won't, and Jacob Rees-Mogg said he hoped he served for years and years to come. How many more people do you think are actively encouraging him to stay put?
Well, I have no idea, and I've supported him all the way through, through thick and thin. I've been on this programme and supported him and defended him because I basically believe that he got the big calls right in the pandemic. He's been very strong on Ukraine, and the programme on which we Conservatives were elected to this building behind me is one that has the broad support of the country. And so I've supported him all the way through. But it just gets to the point where, unfortunately, he has to go. And what really matters is that we then have a new Prime Minister who can unite the country, unite North and South, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, bring the country together. I think we have a programme that is broadly supported in difficult times. This cost of living crisis in particular, brought on by the aftermath of COVID, the fact that China's refusing to unlock, and the war in Ukraine, putting up those energy prices. We've got to deliver on an agenda that is broadly agreed by Conservatives, because it's all about delivering for people, for everybody watching this, doing what we can, but we can't do that anymore with the current Prime Minister.
There's a sort of, I wonder whether you sense there's a slight sense of trepidation today, let's put it that way. So the former Chief Whip, Julian Smith, has compared Boris Johnson to Donald Trump. Quentin Letts this morning of The Times, the paper of record, says that it's almost a dangerous moment, because if the government is this weak, other leaders, and he mentioned Putin, could seek to take advantage. Now that elevates this crisis into something much more serious internationally. Is that something that's being seriously discussed amongst your colleagues?
Well, I think the best way to put it is that it's in the national interest that the Prime Minister stands down. And he could perfectly well continue as a caretaker Prime Minister in the normal way, as David Cameron did and Theresa May did before him. And on those international affairs, he's been very strong. He has the very strong support of the whole of Parliament, all parties in Parliament. And so he could continue to deliver what is needed to stand up to Putin as a caretaker Prime Minister, whilst there is a leadership election. And the leadership election needs to be about the right things. It needs to be about bringing people together and competent, serious government in difficult times.
Who would you back?
Well, it's not yet about who. It's not yet about who. I'm very happy to come on this programme and explain my decision when I get to it. But there's one person's announced their standing. I mean, she's still in the cabinet. It shows just how untenable the Prime Minister's position is.
Would you like the job?
But there'll be others who put their name forward. No,
Hancock?
I'm not going to be standing. But I do care very much about what the next Prime Minister stands for. And it's really important that it's about uniting the country and somebody who can appeal to North and South, to the broad church of the Conservative movement.
OK, Mr Hancock, thank you for your time this morning.